Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So, in all the chaos of the season, there was a rather unexpected circumstance, which was Eramis not only warning us about the trap laid by the Shadow Legion, but then also working to save Mithrax's life when he nearly didn't get out in time. This, of course, begs the question of whether her allegiances have switched or not, and whether the witness is going to be pressed to do anything about it, and perhaps more importantly, what the future holds for the Kell of the House of Salvation. So today I figured we'd talk a little bit more about exactly that. But first, a word from our sponsors at Manscaped, who probably care more about your balls than you do. Okay, maybe that's not true for everyone, but in all seriousness, gents, if you don't care about your hygiene down there, well, you should. Your privates matter, and nobody except Callus really wants their egregore forest to grow out of control. Manscaped can help you with all that though, and I promise that your Leviathan is going to look a lot more opulent without all the gross nonsense everywhere. Wait, Mon, could you cut that? Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0 can help you get everything you need to keep everything under control. Manscaped were kind enough to send one along to me, and it contains some really fantastic goodies, starting off with some great body wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, and then moving on to the Lawnmower 4.0, which is waterproof and will help you keep the forest under control. Very easy and simple to use, and never cuts the skin. Fantastic stuff. But when you're all trimmed down there, you should probably get cleaned up. And, well, there's no easy way to say it, but we all know that it doesn't smell great down there, gents. So, also be sure to use the ball toner and ball deodorant when you're done, as well as the normal deodorant, which Manscaped also provides, which, by the way, is aluminium-free, which I always look for, because, yeah, you don't want that stuff underneath your arms. Lymph nodes. Ugh, nasty stuff. Plus, if you jump in with the link in the description, you can get all of this, plus a bunch of freebies as well. Go to manscaped.com to get 20% off and free international shipping when you use the link in the description below. That's 20% off plus free international shipping when you use the promo code from the link down below. Thank you again to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to the lore. So here's the thing, we don't have much information to go on with anything here in this season. Eramis's actions were critical to the story of the Eliksni going forward. This much is clear because, I mean, you know, she kind of saved the Kell of her biggest adversary and, as a result, made sure that the House of Light still had a leader. But here's the thing, other than the moment where this happened, there's not really been much more about Eramis from that point onwards. We don't really get any big follow-up from this except for a single radio conversation and a bit of dialogue at the end of a battleground. Take a listen to both.
I have known grief and loss. But Amanda did not have to die. If I had listened to Eramis's warning...
Far more. Any word yet from Eramis?
No words. Only silence. She will not speak, even with Idol. Do you think the witness must know now what she did?
You sound conflicted.
Yes. I have many feelings inside. So many. I am close to bursting.
These are literally the only moments after Eramis's intervention in which she is even mentioned a little bit in a passing sense. We get next to nothing to go on here, so I think it's time to sit and, well, speculate about the nature of Eramis's story, because I think that's really the only thing that can honestly tell us where she's headed. So let's break it all down a little bit. Eramis, as someone who you need to understand, is driven by one thing. She is driven by her people. She has always been a protector of her fellow Eliksni, and in this sense, anything she does, she mostly does, in the best of places and times, for their benefit. She is actually really tunnel-visioned on the Eliksni in this particular sense, and their potential survival, and this has led to most of the somewhat virtuous decisions that one might consider her to have made. It's not always the case that you would consider them to be virtuous, but there are things that do actually leave her in a somewhat good light, at least as far as the Eliksni are concerned. Her single-minded focus on her people and their potential survival, though, has led her to shut out all other concerns, possibilities, and potential allies. The single-mindedness has not been without results either, though. She was a successful fallen baron in the days of the House of Devils, and the founding of the House of Salvation wasn't something universally done with negative intent. It was something that actually allowed for the creation of the first Eliksni city since Rhys itself was claimed. The formation of Rhys Reborn was an accomplishment worthy of some praise regardless of any disdain we might hold for her, and that's because for the Eliksni that were under Aramis's command, yes, it was a military-industrial base, but also it was a home, the first home that many Eliksni had ever known. This is our first key clue about Aramis's story and where it all goes. This is the heart of her as a character. She cares about her people and will prioritize them above all others in the best of circumstances and in her most virtuous moments. Previously, Aramis believed that this was something which was a compatible belief with the alignment she held to the Witness, given that its goals were to destroy the Traveler, or at very least to conquer it in some sense, and that she was trying to protect her people from the dangers of the solar system around her, namely the Guardians-in-Chief. This is one of those moments at which it makes sense why Aramis would then reach out and claim the powers of darkness. This allowed her to defend her people more accurately, and it meant that she and her lieutenants could actually potentially stand a chance against the Guardians. But here's the thing. Ever since Aramis's failure to gather the relics of Nezarec in the Season of the Plunder, it's become very clear that her idea of the future that she can carve out for the Eliksni and the Witness's idea of the future in general are not compatible. The Witness, after her failure, began to corrupt and kill various members of the House of Salvation, turning them into scorn or allowing them to fall into the clutches of Xivu Arath as Wrathborn. This, for Aramis, was clearly a turning point, and it's displayed incredibly clearly back in the lore of the Season of the Seraph. I made a video on that a few months back, and if you're interested, you should go ahead and check it out, but it essentially shows that Aramis was never keen on the idea of any of the Eliksni under her command being turned into these mindless scorn that had no semblance of their former selves remaining, that were just puppets of the Witness. This is really the second key thing that helps us understand Aramis's story trajectory. I think it's the reason why she's helping Mithrax and assisting us by proxy. She's starting to see the Witness for what it really is, and now understands adequately that it is not beneficial for her people to keep serving the Witness. Next, I think we need to understand a part of the reason why Aramis is still a little bit torn about whether or not to assist the Witness or to assist us, and I think no better moment summarizes it than these moments here in the Season of the Seraph finale, where you see Aramis in the final cutscene.
It's happening again. The whirlwind.
Aramis.
Don't worry, the great machine will never abandon anyone again. For Rhys.
These moments are unbelievably important not only in the story of Aramis, but also in the story of the Eliksni, and I think it's because it shows where Aramis and some of the older, not so open-minded Eliksni really stand. Aramis, in this moment, shows a tragic focus, which is on the past. She isn't choosing to strike down the Traveler in this moment because it will improve the future of the Eliksni. She does it because of her pain and her need to avenge the Eliksni that died at Rhys. Regardless of the virtue that one might assign to striking down something that left you to die, this is not Aramis acting at her best. This isn't thinking of her people's future, this is her thinking of her own desire for revenge. It's even more tragic because it's only somewhat selfish. Yeah, sure, she wants to see the Traveler suffer, yeah, this is definitely about the revenge that she's been searching for, but there are shades of justice to it. Again, she and her people were left to die, so it's kind of tragic in that sense. You sit there and you can't help but feel like if it was us in this position, we too might make this choice. But the Witness is appealing to her personally in that moment, Whenever it talks about the pain in the situation, it is referring to Eramis's pain. It is making personal appeals, and it is not talking about bettering the future of her people. And when Eramis does finally turn the firing mechanism, she says, "For Rhys, a planet and a people that are long gone and dead." This is not about the Eliksni of tomorrow. This will make nothing right for them. This is about the people that died. And whilst that's very much something that one might understand, it is not thinking of the Eliksni's future. This might not be something which you can categorize as a moment of weakness for Eramis, but it is not her at her best. It is her sitting there and succumbing to something which is righteous but somewhat selfish, very much focused on the past and her own personal real need for revenge as opposed to the future and the collective needs of her people. That's really the third thing to understand about Eramis's story. It's that she as a character is tied to the Eliksni's past, and at the end of the Season of the Plunder she even admits as much in the lore. She sits there and basically says that she is a creature of the past and that there is a future out there for the Eliksni, but she doesn't see herself amongst it. So if she's a creature of the past and the Eliksni are to be led into the future by someone, who is that to be? Well, it's not Mithrax, it's Eido. That's the really simple answer, and this is the key reason, I think, why Eramis is still looking to occasionally assist us. It's not simply about the idea of helping the future, it's the fact that she's seen the potential for it. Eido is an Eliksni born of this solar system, not one who is tied to the terror of the whirlwind, and not one who has known the passing of Rhys. She doesn't understand the barbarity of the Eliksni that they endured on the passage between the stars, and therefore she isn't tied to that need for violence to survive. She's aware of the history, but not the emotional and mental burden that comes with it, not the culture that it ingrained in people. She's learned the lessons of their history and their past, but she's not shackled to them, and her actions aren't determined by that need to survive that is so ingrained that it turned the Eliksni into the Fallen. Eramis has more than once said that Eido and the Eliksni society that she is capable of building will be the future of her people, but she has equally admitted that she herself will have no part in it. As a creature of the past, Eramis is tied to that which was, not to that which might be. Eido, for all that it's worth, probably does believe that Eramis might be able to be saved and changed. But here's the thing. First of all, she'd need to convince us, Mithrax, the Coalition leaders, and any Guardian with even a single bullet in their hand cannon, that Eramis is worth saving. And then she'd need to convince the hardest person to convince of all, Eramis herself. I don't think Eramis believes that she will be around to see the future that Eido might build. And so that leads us to where Eramis's story is now. An enemy, perhaps in name only, working with the intent of helping us from within the ranks of the Witness, aiming to try and help her people survive. I think the next question from here is simply this: what happens to Eramis now? There are, of course, two possibilities as I see it, and both of them hinge on a really key question. Does the Witness know of Eramis's loyalties having changed, or not? If the Witness is unaware currently, then it's likely that Eramis will continue to silently act as an ally within the enemy's ranks. She may even be able to provide us with a key moment of leverage that allows us a boon in some great battle in the future. I imagine, unfortunately, that doing so might mean her sacrificing her own life. However, I think that she might be willing to do so and ultimately would do so to help save her people. You can imagine immediately that if Eido is directly drawn into conflict, that Eramis will be right there like a moth to the flame to save the future of her people. But again, I can't believe I'm saying this, that's the better case scenario. The worst case scenario is that the Witness already knows about Eramis's allegiances. It's unclear if this is the case, and we don't know where the Witness has gone and if it has any knowledge of things going on in Sol right now, or if it has any knowledge of Eramis's disloyalty. But it's clear that if it does know, then Eramis might not be around for so long. The Witness demands subjugation and submission to its absolute authority. In this, there is no deviation in its plans. It may be that the radio silence we hear from Aramis is an indication that she's already dead. I figure this to be highly unlikely though, given that it's a really big open plot thread, and that Bungie is unlikely to simply drop Aramis dead off of screen. They haven't done something like that since Sekiro, and yeah, I think they learned their lesson from that one. All that being said, there is a really dark possibility, which is that the Witness is learning to be even more stealthy and capable of subterfuge. If that is the case, then it might be allowing Aramis to aid us, specifically so that it can draw all of the traitors and those that oppose it into a larger trap. This is not impossible, and the Witness is capable of such maddening deception. After all, look at the lies that it and Rolk told to the Hive. If they're capable of lying through their teeth and conducting subterfuge to the point that they brought an entire species under their thrall, then it's not impossible that Aramis is being allowed to occasionally commit these acts so that they can act as part of the tools of leverage that will draw us into an even grander trap. Again, I don't know, and as a general point, I don't know what the future holds for Aramis, but what I can say is this: don't expect this moment to be the last that we hear of her in the story. She has some narrative importance to her tale yet to come, and I doubt Bungie is quite finished with her yet. But that's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want more Destiny content, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications, and let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Where do you think Aramis' story leads next? Do you reckon there's a point at which she just fully turns coat and joins our side? Do you reckon that anyone might even accept that? Do you think that she'll survive? Let me know down below in the comments section. But as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Per audacia ad astra. I'll see you, Starside.